Dan, I think, really summed up so much of the impact that NCSA has had, and I thought the thing I could do that would be most complimentary is really think back across some of the key moments that I remember. You know what? It's hard to believe we actually started essentially with a blank piece of paper, actually more than 25 years ago, and developed this vision and then brought it into being and grew it from a few people to, 400 or 500 in a fairly short period of time. And I look back over how we did that, and I think it's the people that are in Champaign-Urbana that we attracted to NCSA in the early days. You go back even 30 years ago, Bob Wilhelmson, Dick Crutcher, Bob Haber, myself, and others created the VAX and image processing facility that brought together the parts that are still there today: the computing, the storage, the visualization, and the user interface. So we had that vision being worked out, but then somehow or other, I guess nobody said we couldn't do it. We had the idea you could scale that up. At that time, remember, John Hawley was a graduate student of mine in black hole relativistic hydrodynamics accretion, and we took our code that was running overnight on the VAX to the Max Planck Institute in Garching by Munich, put it on a Cray, and it ran 400 times faster. That was really the inspiration to say we could scale up our VAX and image processing facility to something hundreds of times faster. And that seems so amazing. But yet, remember, in 1988, when the Cray 2 came, who didn't love the Cray 2? What a gorgeous machine Seymour created with the waterfall and everything. That was the first gigaflop machine. And yet, here is NCSA, the National Center for Supercomputing Applications, bringing in blue waters at a petascale is 1 million times faster. So although we had this idea of writing the exponential, we were thinking of 1 or 2 zeros, not 6 or 7 zeros, that were going to be able to be made available to the national research community through exactly the same center. So I think there's something in the process and the people. I see many of you in the audience who I know from the earliest days, and it was this collective team spirit. In Illinois, people raise barns together. They do things together. It's in the culture. And it's not just those of you in the audience who have been inside NCSA. Think of how crazy the administrators were at Urbana to let us do this. This is really, to me, one of the extraordinary things about NCSA being in UIUC is that we were allowed to dream and allowed to go after those dreams. And it wasn't just the supercomputing. I can remember when we got the CM5, 512-way parallel. I remember people saying, well, nobody can make an application run 500-way parallel. Larry, what are you doing? That's a crazy machine. Right? Now you're going to hundreds of thousands of processors. Or, there was one quarter, we bought more SGI equipment than anyone in the non-classified world. And that was, of course, the ride of the microprocessors. So, but that would have been a huge success if it had just been the supercomputers. But the freedom to innovate that we had at NCSA enabled us to do things all the way from NCSA Telnet to NCSA Image, finally NCSA Mosaic. One of my most memorable moments to this day is going across over to the lab where Andreessen and Eric Bina were, and we had I think it was actually Steve Wallach and some high-level people from HP. We came in and they said, we got this new thing called the Mosaic browser we want you to look at, Larry. It was 1993. And I remember seeing them go around from the Honolulu Community College Dinosaur Museum and to the Cambridge University Coffee Pot. Those were the sort of things you could look at in those days. And I just sort of fell back against the door and said, oh my God, this is going to change the world. And you know, it wasn't much longer after that that we invented the whole world's first parallel web server, because we had to. East Central Illinois was the most hit spot on the World Wide Web anywhere on the planet. Imagine that. And from that, of course, came not only Netscape, but also through the licensing, Internet Explorer, and through open source Apache. You know, that's only probably added, I don't know, a few $1 trillion to the global product. I know I was talking to somebody who said, you know, the NSF director after that should have just gone into Congress and said, well, we added $1 trillion to the economy. Can we please have our budget? And so, you know, this is the sort of thing that I remember. But these individuals, you know, Donna Cox has been mentioned, making the first relationships with EVL, Tom DeFani, Dan Sandine, that Donna enabled us to do, having all of the visualization crew. Matt Arrett now works for me here at Cal IT2, as he was one of the leaders of the production visualization group back then. Stefan Fangemeyer became one of the leading wizards at Industrial Light and Magic when he was here. The idea that people from Hollywood would really come to East Central Illinois and bring what had been only commercially available in terms of visualization and make it available to the national research community. These were the kind of miracles. It's crazy if you could get one of them to happen in Champaign-Urbana, but that you could get multiple transformations of the world to happen over and over again, all out of one center, the National Center for Supercomputing Applications. That's what I remember, and that's why I'm so proud to see how well you're doing today, and that we did name it correctly, the National Center for Supercomputing Applications. Thanks.